I think we're recording. Can you hear me, CJ?
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can. Thank you for joining us. Really
Okay.
appreciate it. That question that people always ask, what's your name? Tell us where you're from and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's CJ. I am born and raised in Birmingham. I grew up on the Lyndhurst Council Estate in Erdington. Since then, been I've been to Warwick University to study theatre and performance studies. I then went on to do a little bit of teaching in secondary school, and then then I went to London to study creative writing. So now I'm working at the Birmingham Rep as the lead artist, or one of the lead artists for Lightpost Theatre Company, which is a all black male theatre company there to support the mental health of young black men. So that's what I'm working on at present.
That must be quite exciting for you.
Yeah, yeah. It was actually a project that I started off being a part of. And then after, when I came back from London, there was an opportunity to be one of the leaders. So I went for that role and was successful. So it's been a really nice transition, seeing some of the younger ones come through as well.
And is that supporting black men with their mental health?
Yeah, so it was recognised widely that there's a kind of disproportionate um, the statistics are disproportionate for black men in mental health institutions. So it's part of the Shifting the Dial project, which is in line with other mental health charities as well. So it's a project that came together as a part of that project, but then we kind of thought, okay, how can we as a theatre kind of help to prevent young black men kind of going through mental health issues? So it's a place of kind of refuge. The guys come together, they talk about their experiences, and then we kind of put that into like a devised piece of drama at the end of it. So it's a really interesting space.
So that must be, there must be loads of stories, and in terms of, there's so much depth behind it, because it's not just a case of where mental health just suddenly hits somebody. I assume it's over a period. It can hit some people. There can be other elements of where it's building up over a period of time. Is there a full investigation, almost kind of examining all areas and going, let's look at this area, let's look at the role of this? Is that kind of elements of it as well?
And that's the great thing about it, because it's also a mentorship scheme. So it ranges from the age of starts at the age of 16, and then it goes right up to the age of 26, and then after that we're just implementing a mentorship program, so like a post Lightpost Theatre Company program. So during the ages of 16 to 26, the older members have obviously got more life experience, so they're able to really kind of guide and nurture some of the younger ones who may not have been through certain experiences yet, or have encountered, things like institutional racism, or kind of just racism on a global scale, or just deeper issues that they can now discuss and be aware of at an earlier age. So that's really helpful.
That's wonderful that you're doing, and obviously, I assume that there are signposts as well if people are going through. So do you look at things like psychosis as well, and schizophrenia, and kind of going, because mental health covers such a massive area as well, and as you rightly said, there's racism, institutional, which all play elements of it as well. Do you look at other areas as well, or is it just you kind of?
So our remit is kind of just to look at, okay, if the young people are going through something, how can we nurture them in kind of a way that's not necessarily trying to hone in specifically on that issue, but allowing them to take their minds away from it.
Okay.
But there are also structures in place that if they are going through something, then we're able to refer them on to other areas. So it's kind of a way of flagging an issue, maybe, but without actually targeting it specifically.
And I assume you're trained in terms of, if there's a disclosure, especially if there's a young person, well, with all people as well, in terms of signposts as to where they can go to seek further help.
100%. Yeah, we're all trained in safeguarding and know exactly how to kind of mentor these young people and refer them onto the correct, and follow the correct procedures. Yeah. So
and I assume anyone can come along to these, if
so
you're of black background, or is it open to everybody?
So specifically at the moment, this one is the Lightpost Theatre Company is for young black men. So that young African, Caribbean men, maybe of dual heritage as well, from the ages of 16 to 26.
You say to people, I want evidence, I want proof. You really are. You're pretending, you're not.
Well, that's the thing. I think the interesting thing about black culture is there are certain people that you know, you may not consider to be black on the outside, but they actually have a lived experience. Maybe they grew up with black parents or something like that. So it's kind of hard to hone it down to, you know, the color of someone's skin. So that's kind of contention can come in, even in terms of what we're going to proceed to talk about in terms of the, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement and all of that.
And that is very interesting, isn't it? Because straight away, once you say black people, you tend to look at colour, don't you, more than anything? Whereas, as you've rightly said, you could be brought up by black parents. You could have lived where your whole culture is driven by that cultural environment, which maybe of Afro-Caribbean or African or whatever background in terms of your heritage and whatever you take on. So I think that's quite interesting. Coming on to the Black Lives Matter movement, which obviously has been massive, how have you been dealing with it? Because obviously there's loads of stuff that's currently going on where people are looking to make change. What kind of impact has it had on you so far?
Well, of course, the interesting thing was I actually got this role with Lightpost Theatre during the whole kind of COVID-19 outbreak. So I wasn't actually able to meet with the guys straight away. So it was all over Zoom at the start. So of course, everybody's experience was slightly different during that period anyway, and that was before all of this kind of kicked off. So at that stage, I was already thinking, okay, how are we going to bring people together? How are we going to be able to use what we have at present to kind of get everyone's minds away from the negative things? And then of course, this kind of broke out, and then it was like, okay, now we have to kind of target the thing that has actually happened, which we may have all suppressed these feelings for a very long time. So for me personally, it was quite difficult trying to obviously have my own have my own perspective of what was going on, but also trying to monitor and nurture those who might not be quite familiar with some of these issues. But I mean that's kind of where the project, the Black Pounds project, grew out of. It was that kind of idea of of course we're all feeling a certain way right now. That of course it all came from it all stemmed from the George Floyd case in America. But these are not new issues. These are issues that have been quite persistent for a very, very long time. So everything that's happening at the moment and the way people have responded is just literally a case of the frustrations kind of boiling over. So I was just at a place where I didn't want to kind of be responsive in that way. I kind of wanted to be reflective and think, how can we be practical about this? And that's where the project came in, because I kind of thought, you know, everyone at these protests at the moment have their own feelings towards the issue. But what if we kind of took a step back from that and thought about how we're actually going to be practical about this? How are we going to make sure that things don't continue in the same way? So the project was kind of born out of that, just a conversation I was having.
And when you say the project's called?
The project is, the Black Pounds project. And it was just kind of born out of a conversation I was having with my brother about, you know, what if everybody within the Black community specifically was able to donate, you know, £2 towards a cause. And the cause that I thought of was to be able to support Black-owned businesses, because as a business owner myself, I know that it was very difficult at the start to have that kind of capital and financial assistance to be able to move forwards. So that was kind of where I was honing in on, that small business aspect. But imagine if we branch that out into other areas, that kind of similar mindset of coming together and using whatever means we have to be able to put forward something positive. Yeah, so that was kind of.
Is this for you then overall, in terms of you kind of saying to the communities, look, we need to support one another first? Is that kind of fundamental? Is that something that you kind of feel that in this current environment people don't do enough of? where they're not supporting their own as such?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, from looking at the donation page, it's quite clear that there is a want and desire to support the Black community, and that is not just coming from Black people. That's coming from people of all races and ethnicities and creeds. So yes, I think a project like this is important in bringing people together, regardless of race. So because of course the issue is so much greater than any of us can try and diagnose in kind of one conversation. So if we actually, but what we can do is we can come together and be practical. That's one thing we actually can do. And I think, of course, not everybody may have £2 at this time because it's an economically difficult time, but everybody has a voice and everybody has is able to have an opinion on the things that are happening, and is able to think practically or share a post on social media.
In terms of any funding that you raise, how will you determine goes where, who gets what? I mean, what are you looking to do? Are you looking to kind of just say to, hi, this is a Black business, here's a sum of money? Or is it a case of, look, you seem to be lacking in marketing, maybe something that you need to look at, address, you haven't got a website, have you thought about having a website? I assume those are all kind of, that's probably getting into the nitty gritty of it. But I assume like with anything, people kind of want to know, well, how's that money going to be spent and where's it going to be spent on?
Yeah, exactly. So the Black Pounds Project is a community interest company which has been set up as a subsidiary through my organisation, Sorrel Park Theatrical. So the money is essentially going to be the money is going to be distributed evenly across the businesses that are selected. So of course, within the Black community, there are, globally, there is a stigma attached to Black businesses specifically, being unreliable, maybe being late. So the project is about being able to develop a cohort of reliable, sustainable, and very understanding Black businesses. So the idea is that we'll raise the initial sum of money. We'll get proposals from the businesses that are interested. There'll be a panel, and then those businesses will come in and speak with the panel about how they will be using the funds, or in how they can use the funds in the most efficient way. So it's more of a process so that we can understand the businesses. And then once we have this kind of directory of businesses, we'll be able to share all of those businesses with the people that have been supporting the project. So they'll receive, exclusive offers, deals, and things that will help to build that real community spirit. And we'll actually be able to support them in a human way, as opposed to just seeing a brand online and not necessarily knowing who is behind that.
Do you think there's kind of a call for, in terms of more knowledge, in the sense of, I recently was involved in a project with a company called Black Country Touring, whereby they did performances in shops. And they had an Afro-Caribbean store, and they had a takeaway, a Jamaican takeaway shop. And they told stories in the shops while the shops were open. So what it suddenly did was it opened it up to the non-Black community to go and visit and go, wow, I never knew what yam was. I never knew what green banana was and how you cook it and what you make with it. But just hearing the stories as well, because then suddenly you heard stories of migration and why people were moved into that particular part. I think they were all based in West Bromwich, so I should know because I was in it as well. And so I was wondering, is that a different area really in terms of, because you've got one side where what you're looking at is the fundamentals of how a business is run. You've got the other side where you're looking at the marketing side of it, where you're kind of going, the perception is that people feel, oh, Black businesses can't deliver on time, they can't do this, but, they're all lies. We need to change that perception. And the other side is whereby a different community altogether who go, I've never even thought about going into one of those shops. This could be something that I really kind of learn.
Exactly. And yeah, just touching on from that, I actually received, somebody donated this morning and actually commented, other than my barber, I don't actually know any other Black businesses. So, so that's actually quite interesting to me, because if that is kind of their genuine experience, we need to be able to change that. I think the person said they were from somewhere in Evesham. So that's just, yeah, just by the Worcester area. So, you know, having the project readily available with services online for this person who's clearly supporting the movement and the project, having those services online actually branches that out to them. And if we could get the businesses to submit, you know, like a monthly blog of just something about their business or their cultural heritage, that people can read and learn about the business and, you know, where it's come from and its origins. I think this will really help to build that community and togetherness, because at this current climate, as you say, that the Black Lives Matter movement is quite varied. People are fighting for very different different things. The thing that I'm fighting for the most is unity, and I think that can only be achieved once people start to think about how we're going to come together and how we can be practical. Yeah.
And I assume for all of us that what we can do is we can go to Black businesses and support them, irrespective of our race or religion, and kind of go, you know what, I've never tried a patty, you know, let me go in and try one, or I don't know the different types of food that's available or what dish that I can make. And like with most of the retailers, I think if you go to them and ask them, oh, how can I make something? They'll tell you a dish, you know, on how their mom made it and how to try it, you know. So I assume that's one thing for everybody. Would you say?
Yeah, yeah, it really, really is beautiful, and I think it is something that, you know, this is a project at this stage which is specifically focusing on Black businesses, because that's, you know, where I think we're at the moment in terms of I believe Black businesses need support, and this is a project about bringing those businesses to a certain level, or, you know, just raising awareness of these businesses so that they can be accessible to people that might not be able to might not know about them. So as you say, you know, having the access to marketing and things like that is brilliant, because it branches it out, and it can then have a wider reach. Yeah.
How can, if people want to donate, have you got a set page that's set up, or how can they contact you if they want to contribute in terms of knowledge or be part of this particular cause that you're obviously helping towards?
Yeah, of course. So it, like I say, it was something that was literally set up last Thursday. So I mean, from Thursday to now, to have over, you know, I think we're nearly at £4,000 in terms of the amount we've been able to raise, and literally it was only asking for £2 for each person. I came up with, well, I kind of researched the figures, and I think there's over 59,000 Black people in Birmingham. So the idea was that, you know, imagine if we were all to just donate £2 to support local Black businesses, you know, what would that do? But yeah, so in terms of people reaching out, you can reach out at the blackpoundsproject@gmail.com. That is the email which I'm kind of using for people to
Black pounds, as in pound notes, POUND. Yeah, just yeah.
project@gmail.com.
Okay.
And the Facebook page is the Black Pounds Project, and there's also an Instagram page which is the Black Pounds Project, yeah, as well. So I'll just repeat those. So that's the Black Pounds Project on Facebook, that's the Black Pounds Project at gmail.com, and that's the Black Pounds Project on Instagram as well.
And I assume you don't have to be Black to contribute.
No, of course not. This is the whole
thing. Sorry, mate. I know you're offering the money, but we don't want it. You can only contribute if you're Black.
No. The great thing about it is that anybody can contribute. I just wanted the focus to be specifically on.
It's the cause, isn't it? It's that thing of whereby, you know, with all of us, where you kind of go, you know, this is a good cause. I want to support this cause. It doesn't mean, you know, Black Lives Matter. I'm supporting the cause. You know, it's a case of well, wait there, what's your origins? You know, that whole kind of thing. So, you know, whether it's LGBT plus QI, it's that whole kind of thing. I'm supporting the cause. So, yeah, we're supporting causes. Wonderful. Something else, I kind of want to go back into your theatre stuff and maybe kind of touch on it a little bit. Obviously, you being of a theatre background, writer, is it a master's you've done as well? Yeah. What do you feel about this whole thing of David Walliams blacking up and all that kind of stuff, and the Little Britain team. Do you feel that specific roles should be kept? Like if there is an Asian role, it should only be for an Asian person. If there's a black role, it should only be a black person. Or is it a case of, well, wait there, you could pass as being black, so that's okay. You could pass for being Asian, so that's okay. Where do you stand in terms of that?
I think the interesting thing is, I actually went into the arts because I didn't, well, when I was younger, I was always interested in the performing arts. I was always interested in sports and performing arts. That was literally all I wanted to do. But I didn't, when I went to the theatres and things like that, I didn't necessarily, or watch TV, I didn't really see people that looked like me or came from where I came from represented on screen. So I think when when you mention the things about people having to be from a certain place represented, I think it's really important that we do target those who are from those specific communities and areas, because otherwise we're not allowing people to have that access and that opportunity to be represented, and the important thing is I've been so driven and fueled by the fact that there haven't been many people that look like me represented in the roles that they could be represented in, because I just wanted people that came from where I came from to be able to know that there's a place for them in the arts industry. So if we've got people that are just taking the roles because they can, that doesn't necessarily change anything or help us to move forward as a society. So yeah, that's kind of my stance on that.
Would you want, because there's this whole thing of removing footage. I'm not going to go into removing statues. That's a totally different kind of subject altogether. Do you think footage should be removed, or do you think it's a case of it needs to be there to kind of remind people of that was a set time, where that happened. That was, and it also documents that moment. Whereas if you eradicate it, future generations will look at it and go, nothing happened. Everything was cool. There was no problems. What you on about racism? There was never any racism. What you on about people blackening up? Nobody blackened up because there's no footage of it. I mean, do you think that's a concern, or do you...
I think you can never really remove something, and you can take it from the streaming, but you can't take it from people's memories. You can't take their thoughts and opinions away from it because it did happen. I think it's a very interesting topic. I don't know if I have a specific feeling towards it, but I would say that we just have to be careful that we're not like venturing into a space where we start just removing things without actually first thinking about why we're removing it. Like, it would be interesting if the actors and the cast and the team came together and actually spoke about it publicly, so that we know exactly what the feelings were when it was created, and what certain lines or messages they were trying to portray. Because for me, like, I think that in between us was taken off as well, and I know I've got people that were my close friends that just love that show. I don't particularly think it's the greatest show in the world, but there are people from my community that enjoy that show. So are we missing something? Like, is there? Yeah. So I just think we're venturing into a culture of kind of removal, and it can be quite dangerous because we're not actually necessarily having the conversations that we need to have surrounding it at this stage. So it's all well and good removing it, but you can't remove kind of the systems in place at this stage. It will take time. So maybe removing them is a good thing, because it shows that people are thinking differently. But also it's kind of, you're removing things, and we haven't actually had the conversations that need to take place just yet. So
let's have the conversations, and then we'll decide and kind of go, look, if you need access to it, what these guys did, there it is. And finally, just in terms of your own particular work, are there any things that you really kind of want to like push or see in terms of projects that you may be looking to kind of explore or examine? Are these more black stories as such, or stories around mental health, or is there a specific area that you really kind of want to champion? I say this to most people: is there that CJ glitter that you want to kind of impose on your, whether it's your writing style or whether it's your creative element where you go, well, that's the CJ element?
I'm really into kind of character driven pieces. Like, I think characters drive a story forward. And when we get to know these characters and where they're coming from, that helps us to understand the story. So the play that I've written for Lightpost, which is going to be on in September, depending on how the rec space opens up, that's called Constructed, and it's basically about the working class experience of Black men in Britain in the construction industry. So we're just looking at kind of the systems that are in place, and are they there to support or hinder in some cases. So this is kind of just about how to research that and actually speak to the people that have been in the construction industry and are from the Black Caribbean background, because that will really help the actors, the guys from the group as well, to be able to portray those characters. So it's, yeah, so for me, I'm just interested in people and how to kind of convey that in a creative way.
That's wonderful. But listen, CJ, so thank you so much for giving up time and chatting to us. You're, as you said, with the particular project itself, that's, you've given all the details there. Anything else we need to look out for?
No, just continue to support the movement. I think it's a really interesting thing doing. So I'm really looking forward to how this all unfolds.
That's great. I'm going to just stop recording, so just bear with me. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Find the right button.